Hello, Trasucha Salametsebe. My name is Doug Mooney. I'm an English Language Fellow from the United States of America, and the English Language Fellow program is part of a program through the United States Department of State. And I am one of about 140 English Language Fellows that are spread around about 70 different countries all around the world. And our primary mission is to work at various institutions, at educational institutions, universities and academies and such, and we're here to help with English language learning and to help promote American culture through all these various countries that we're assigned to. I'm one of 5 fellows in Kazakhstan, and so I was assigned to Semey, and I was working at 2 universities, Alican Boykan University and Shakaram University as well. And I've been here, the program it's for 10 months at a time, and you can renew for a second 10 months. So I was here last year for my 10 months and enjoyed it so much, I decided to renew for a second 10-month period, and I'm coming to the end of that. I'll be here through the end of June, but it's been a tremendous, tremendous experience for me. And I should mention my wife. I was able to bring my wife along for the majority of the time as well.
Okay, nice to see you today here, Doug. I want to ask some of the questions, something that makes a great interest for our viewers.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for asking.
Okay, so you have been at the university for some time already. If you compare the students at the beginning of the semester and now, what changes can you notice? And have they become more confident at communicating in English?
The simple answer to that, the last part of your question, is yes, very much so. When I first arrived last September, they weren't quite sure what to do with me, both at the institutions, like where I should be placed and what classes, what students I should be assigned to. But we worked that out over time. But towards the first and second and third and finally this 4th semester, I think we really started to connect and gel. And the students in particular, they were much more confident in their use of the language. And that was one of the primary goals for me. Generally speaking, the grammar is pretty good. Their basic knowledge of English is very, very good. It's just they don't get the chance to practice it and use it outside of the classroom. And frankly, they're afraid to. They're afraid of making mistakes. They're afraid of being corrected. And I tended not to do that in the classroom. And I was just primarily trying to bolster their confidence in using the language. We all make mistakes. Me as a native speaker, I make mistakes all the time. It's perfectly fine. The goal is, are we able to communicate and get our messages across? So definitely the confidence in the students increased dramatically over the period of time that I was here.
Okay, we're glad to hear that.
Yes.
You conducted many additional courses and activities. Which one received the most unexpected response from students, and what seemed to engage them the most?
Well, to jump back just a bit, so we, as a fellow, we have primary duties and we have secondary duties. The primary duties are the ones that I discussed, where we're assigned to an institution and generally speaking, we're in classes teaching university-level students. The secondary projects are things like conversation clubs or trivia contests, or going in June, I'll be going to some summer camp programs as well. But here in Semey, really one of the most enjoyable things that I did, along with my wife, was the conversation club at the local public library, the Abai Library. And that was open to the general public, the general community. And we had students of all ages. We had some young students come in, we had adults come in. And just seeing the interaction between all of these ages and different levels of proficiency was really remarkable. We've had some participants, they were here last September, and they've been coming regularly for these past 22 months. And just recently, within the past month, a lot of my university students have started coming there too. So I would have to say it's the conversation clubs that we did at the public library were very, very rewarding. And then we had some secondary activities as well throughout the year. And it's those more informal activities that they're just fun because you're not following the structure of a class so much. But those are really, really remarkable.
So it's an important social mission too.
Oh gosh, very much so. And again, it's fulfilling the needs of the program, the English Language Fellow program, as well as to make connections beyond the institutions to the local community, and that's exactly what I was able to accomplish here.
Okay. In your opinion, what is the main difference between American educational culture and ours that you experience firsthand in ABU classrooms?
Oh goodness. Well, first, I have not taught at university level in the U.S. My job back there, as I taught at a community college, and it was in the adult education program, English as a second language. So we would focus on speaking and listening skills, more survival language skills. But I've been a student. Actually, I've been a student most of my life, as it turned out, and I would say at an American schools and universities, the classrooms tend to be a bit more informal, and there's a lot of discussion based, and the students participate quite a bit. They would be a lot more. There's not such a barrier or wall between the students and the instructor. It's pretty open. Again, it varies wildly. I'm generalizing, of course. And here, there's a structure, there's formality here, there's a distance between the instructor, the teacher, and the students. My students back in the U.S., they don't stand up when I enter the room, and so that was a surprise. Like, what are you standing up for? It's just me, And they're like, oh, so very polite, very respectful, and very orderly. But I'm here representing a different style of teaching, and so over those months that I've been here, it really, that kind of barrier, that formality broke down, and so over time, I noticed that the students they kind of dropped their, I don't know if that's the right way of saying it, their guard a little bit. They became looser, more freer, and which enabled them to use the language a lot more fully, more completely. So I'd say U.S., it's a little bit more casual and informal, and here it was definitely more structured. And watching some of the other teachers, I got to observe some of the other teachers at the universities, and seeing that the procedures that they followed and that the general atmosphere of the room was quite different. Very effective, but just different, yes.
Okay. And now some questions about the experience of living and working in Semey. You are already familiar with Kazakhstan. Have you developed any personal rituals or favorite places in Semey where you felt like at home?
Oh, very much so, and it just increased over time. I kind of follow a routine anyway, like how I get up and the things I do in the morning, but I just definitely, there were favorite coffee shops that I would go to, and they got to recognize me, and they would almost have my order ready for me when I walked in the door. So there were, these cafes and coffee shops, some of the restaurants that we became familiar with, the walks through the city, along the river, over on the island a little bit as well. So those places became, I was fond of them, especially being here over the course of, well, I'll say 2 years, but throughout the seasons, coming in the fall, going through the winter period, and now that it's springtime, gorgeous, gorgeous time. The lilacs are in bloom, so those things, being able to walk around and experience those are quite wonderful. And I've been able to travel a little bit because of the program, and there were places in, like Astana, restaurants that, like, oh, they make good Indian food, I'm going to that place again, or different coffee shops again, or different restaurants. So it was very, very nice that makes you feel at home when you have your regular spots that you go to, and just feel comfortable. Yes.
Okay. So you experienced the famous Kazakh hospitality.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes, very, very much so. Yes.
Okay. Working in another country is always a challenge. What was the most difficult aspect of adapting to university processes this semester?
I'm ashamed to admit this, but I only speak English. I don't speak any other languages. They tell us, like, well, you're supposed to be an expert in English, so promote that. And not knowing Russian or Kazakh, I think, put me at a disadvantage. I think there were a lot of opportunities that I missed out on, not being able to engage with my colleagues and students and the other residents of the city at a much more deeper level. So that part was challenging. And and also not knowing what was going on at the university sometimes, because I'd come through the door into the lobby sometimes and like, oh, there's this big event going on, like, oh, there's dozens of children in traditional costumes playing dombra and with seats set up and the faculty and administration set up, and there's some event. I'm like, what's going on? And they said, oh, it's a special day for some reason. And so I was able to participate, and observe those things, but not knowing about it ahead of time. So in some ways, I don't think I was in the loop of things. And I think if I spoke the language or languages, I would have been in the know a little bit more. So that was a challenge. Excuse me, of not knowing certain things that were going on that I think would be just common knowledge, like teacher room chit chat. So that was different for me, and a bit of a challenge as well. So I think there were probably some other ones, but that's what comes to mind is not quite being in the know of what's going on at the university and finding out about it a little bit later on. So.
And talking about the atmosphere, if you had to describe it in 3 words, which words would you choose for our university?
Only 3 words? Goodness. Well, you said Kazakh hospitality, very, very welcoming. So one word, welcoming, right from the beginning. The teachers, the administration, the students were very welcoming and made me feel special for being here. Maybe ambitious. There's a lot going on in Semey and in Kazakhstan as well, and at the universities. There's an energy at the universities. You can feel that things are happening, not just construction, but the programs. I just ran into some colleagues downstairs, and they're talking about accreditation process going through. That it's like, these are big things. So that was 2 words. 3rd word, just I guess energetic. It was, the students are here. They're pumped up. They're here, ready to learn. They're engaged. They want to improve their English language skills for a variety of reasons. It's not just they have their goals that they're trying to accomplish, and so they recognize that English, among other languages, that's going to help reach them. So the energy in the classrooms and the universities has been almost palpable, if you will. Yeah.
Very pleasant description, thanks. And talking about cultural exchange, you actively participated in university life beyond textbooks and lectures. How important is it for a modern educator to be not just a lecturer, but also part of the student community?
Oh, a tremendous amount. There are things that happen in the classroom. It's structured, you have control over it, and you're trying to get a certain lesson across. And there's a certain point to it. But outside of the classroom, having those more informal, casual conversations, in a way, that's where a lot of the real learning happens. And it, going back to confidence a little bit, that's where that confidence is going to build up. And then outside of the classrooms as well, the other relationships that we've been able to build over time through the Teachers Association here in Semey, had a wonderful relationship with them and been able to do a couple of activities with them over the past 2 years. So outside of the classroom, it's just a different environment. I've in my student being a student, not sure how to say that, but I've been a student a lot throughout my life, and most recently we had a couple of students from China in my classes, and that just drove a point home to me very clearly. Their English language skill and knowledge was very, very good. What they lacked was just basic conversation skills. They didn't get a chance to use their language outside of the classroom, and that's what I noticed here as well. Students can speak, they know the language very well, and to varying degrees, they're very conversational, but they don't, and rightly so, like why would they be able to go out into the streets and use English? So trying to find those opportunities where they can practice their English language skills was pretty vital, pretty important, and you see that the students were taking advantage of that. I had students in the hallway say hello to me. Like, they weren't students in my classes, but they were just eager for an opportunity to use their language skills.
Okay. Soon you will complete your work here. What is the main piece of advice you would give our students so they don't lose the motivation and enthusiasm you inspired in your courses?
And well, what I've been doing all is try to find those opportunities to use the language outside of the classroom, uh, whether it's you know of course, your media is out there, watching television shows or movies in English without subtitles, or you could do both, right? Don't rely just on the subtitles and the translations all the time into your language. Some of my students said their English language skills improved greatly by playing video games, especially on an international level. Their communication with their fellow players really helped them out. Reading books in English, right, would be another way. So just find those opportunities where you're exposed to the language in a variety of different formats, and then also find those ways that the student can use those, present those. Writing, journaling, all of those things would be very, very helpful. Just find ways for the input, different ways for the input, and then always for the output as well.
Okay. Do you plan to stay in touch with your students after returning to the United States?
Oh, very much. I certainly hope so. In fact, not so long ago, I got an email from one of my students from the very first semester. It was very wonderful, very lovely to hear from him, and he, he was complimentary, which was always nice to hear. But between WhatsApp and emails, I certainly hope to stay in contact. More importantly, what's going to be really special to me is maintaining contact with my colleagues, my fellow teachers, because I've made some very special connections with them, and finding out about the various projects that they're working on, the goals that they have, so and then the professional relationships that we've developed. And that's where the line gets blurred. It's professional relationships, but we're really friends, and I hope those friendships are able to maintain. I hope that they're able to come visit us in the U.S. as well. So that's been very, very special. So the answer is definitely yes.
Hopefully. And the intriguing question for us, given the opportunity, would you come back to us again in a few years? What changes you would like to see in our university by that time?
Whew. Again, simple answer is yes. I'd love to be able to come back again. In fact, we're kind of making plans to do just that. There are some other fellows that are stationed in this general region that we'd like to come back and visit. I'd love to come back to Semey and see what changes are going. There is so much construction going on in the city that it's just phenomenal. Just the changes between last year when we first arrived and what's going on now. A bridge, a new bridge going in, the Central Square. Last week it was open. This week there's walls all around and just construction. So I'd love to see what's going on there, as well as throughout the rest of the country as well. So I'd love to see the progress that's being made in that area. As far as the universities, I am curious to see what kind of programs. Sadly, there won't be any fellows in Kazakhstan next year due to some budget issues, I guess. But I'd love to see how that the program develops, and what other what other teachers from other countries are going to be able to come in. There are some. We have at one of the other universities where I'm at. They have teachers from Turkey here. They have teachers from China. They have teachers from South Korea. So having those exchanges at the faculty level are pretty important. I would also hope that the students take advantage of exchange opportunities that might present them, for that academic mobility is what I guess you would call it here, for exchange programs. I hope students take advantage of that. So I would hope that the universities are able to promote those types of programs, because I've certainly noticed a difference in students that have been in other countries for a semester or so, and they've come back. Just their level of confidence. There's a spark in them. Their willingness to engage in conversations. I see a tremendous value in that. So I would hope that's another area where I hope the universities can continue to develop those exchange programs. Yeah.
Okay, that is all with our interview. Thank you very much for speaking with us today. Always pleasure.
Oh, the honor is mine. I'm so happy to have had the opportunity not only to work here at Alekan Boykan University, but to meet all the wonderful people associated with it. So the thanks is coming from me. Thank you so much.